Alright, so this is a tutorial video for the new Mario Kart game on SheepServer. It's complex enough that I felt it was in need of a video rather than a long post explaining it. You can find it at the end of this walkway here in the game's world. Just look for the question block. So to enter, just run up to this and you get launched into it, or into the pipe. This is the central hub area for the game. It's where you can get to all the tracks. Over here, you got the 20 circuit tracks, which are divided into different cups. And then over here is the multiplayer battle tracks, which we'll get into later. This is a wall here. These will all take you to spectators, or to the spectator stands in each arena. This is a cosmetic shop, which we'll come back to later. The first time you come here, it will do absolutely nothing until you are able to collect any coins. There's a little boat in the center here. This is just if you want to practice riding around, because it is really unusual to get to. It is really difficult to get used to. So basically, you press left, you'll turn left, right, you'll turn right, and then forward and back, of course, back. But the thing is, you have like no traction on ice, and it is very easy to spin out. Like if I hold right, I'll spin like crazy. You can also build up an insane amount of speed on this, which is hard to blend in this room. Another thing is, if you are careful, or if you once you get the hang of it, you can essentially drift around corners. It's hard to explain this. You really just kind of have to get a feel for it. But this will be your main method for getting around corners and not losing control. To enter a track, just walk over and stand within this little white square here. Just stand remotely close, somewhat close to the button, and hit it. You'll be teleported into it. That will bring you into the waiting area for each track here. Each one has its own room like this. In there, you'll find a few buttons in here. For one of them, this button will start a race, which will bring everyone in this room down to the track, right about here behind the starting lines. The end race button is invisible, or does not exist unless a race is currently in progress. This is the emergency stop button. Basically, it will reset the track and kick all players in the race out of it. This one does not disappear. So if someone is in the waiting room here and hits this, it's going to end the race immediately for everyone. However, when you press it, it also announces who hit it. So if you see that in your middle of the race, you know who to be angry at. Alright, I've brought my other account into this racetrack. So when all players are in this room, you're ready to start, hit the button. You'll have about 10 seconds or so until the music stops, and a countdown will begin on the lights. At that point, if you're not in a boat, you'll be brought back up into this room. And that also qualifies for any point in this race. You'll be sent back up to this room and disqualified. So pick a boat. It doesn't matter which one, just whichever one you prefer. So now the race has begun. If at any point in the race you decide to get out of your boat, you will be disqualified immediately. He's still down there. If I do the same thing with him, right now you see there is no stop or start button, but the reset button is there if it's not ready to be used. So I will go ahead and kick out the other guy, and now all players are off the track, so you can now end the button, or you can now hit this button to end the race. That will take about a few seconds, and everyone will be brought back to the waiting room, or back to the hub. So on the circuit mode, there will be 3 laps per race. Basically, your goal is just to go around the entire track. So once you go through the start line, you'll start the first lap. These will give you a coin in the game, which we'll come back to later. Those are for the cosmetic shop. The pipes here are just obstacles. So I will finish a couple laps here. That's the first lap down. Once you hit the third lap, that's the final lap, and it'll play a little chime for everyone. That just signals that someone completed is on the final lap now. Once you go through the third time, it'll be walked back up to the starting or to the waiting room. So each boat has their own unique music. Because I had the Acacia boat, I have this theme which is Donkey Kong's theme, or Donkey Kong Jr.'s theme. If it bugs you, you can go into your options at any point and turn down the jukebox. The volume slider will affect everything in this game, so I'm going to turn it off for the moment. So at this point, the race is still not over because he is on the track. So once he finishes, I'm going to go ahead and skip a couple laps here. Alright, so I just skipped him ahead to the final lap. So as soon as I head back to the checkout or to the checkpoint, it'll be ended for him too. And you can see on the right side here, the results of the race are on the sidebar. So this race can have up to 6 players in any point, since there's 6 boats. Any more than that, or any extra players will just be kicked out of the race. One other thing to note is that you cannot have more than one person in a boat. If a second person enters the back seat of your boat, you both will immediately be kicked out of the race. I have not been able to find a way around that, unfortunately. So now that the race is done, I'll turn the music back on. So you just hit that button to end the race. There's a delay there to basically give the redstone a chance to stop. Well, there's different course themes, basically. It's the circuit theme, plains, Ghost Valley, the castle theme, Chocolate Island, Cocoa Beach, Vanilla Lake theme. Oh, and Rainbow Road. Right, now we'll go over some other hazards. On the Mario Circuit track, there's not much in terms of hazards. You might find some oil spills around, which, like right there. Basically, those will just stop you in your tracks. In the Donut Plains themes here, so in this theme, there's not really a whole lot of obstacles, but there is water around. If I can remember where I put it. Ah, there. Oh, you might find patches of off-colored blue ice in the ground. When you're on this, your boat accelerates significantly faster, and you can get to a higher speed. However, it's also much harder to control because you can spin out much easier. Like there, I only held right for about a second and a half. So the water in these tracks is all bubble columns. So you get stuck in the water. So like I can't get my boat up, but every now and then your boat jumps up a block or so. You can use that to get out of the water. In the other two Donut Plains themes, there's another type of obstacle. You can see it bouncing in the distance there. These are Monty moles, which will pop out of the ground here randomly. If they hit you, you'll get nausea for a few seconds, which makes it a bit harder to see what you're doing, but it only lasts for a couple seconds. So definitely best to avoid them. Next up is the Ghost Valley theme. So there's two main obstacles on these. There's the walls here, which have pressure plates in front of them. If you bump them, a second later, the blocks will break, and then they do not appear again until the track is reset. So on the next race. So you could use this to your advantage, like set up a trap for other players, or you could fall into it yourself. If you fall off the ledge, you'll get moved back onto the track at a slightly earlier point. So if I fall down right here, I got put back at a different location. So the other spot I fell was back there. So these water columns here are used for jumping across gaps. You can hover at the top for quite a while, although be careful because if your head's in the water, the boat might kick you out for some reason, and you'd be disqualified. I couldn't find a way around that either. And then if you're careful, there's some of these tracks have a shortcut you can take. Like that. Next up is the Bowser's Castle theme. The main obstacle in here is similar to the Ghost Valleys. If you fall off the track, you'll also get moved back up onto it. However, you'll also be on fire, so you have to make sure not to fall in too much and to keep an eye on your health. I'll come back to those. So if I fall in here, get put back up on the track. So I'd suggest getting to water as soon as you can to cut back on the amount of health you lose. So these are the thwomps. They simply fall on the track and block your path. When they're up, you can ride underneath it. When they're down, not so much. And then there's also these patches here, which will just slow you down considerably. So these will fall down somewhat randomly. Next up is the Choco Island theme. So on the edges of the track in some spots, you might find the piranha plants here. If you get too close to them, they'll bite you. And then there's these jump pads here. Just ride your boat over them, and you'll get launched up in the air a bit. So if your health is low, it might be best to try and avoid the jump pads until your health recovers. If they kill you, you'll be out of the race. Next up is the Hua Beach tracks. So these tracks are partially submerged in water. You can really ride off of into the water here. The shallow water is what is with the sandstone slabs here. And then to get back up on the ice, just ride up into the ice. You get pushed up immediately. This here is the deeper one. You can stand about 5 seconds on that, but you want to avoid it. You cannot go to where the coral is. So if you sit here for too long, you get kicked out. You get kicked out of your boat and out of the race. These are not implemented quite yet, but there will also be a few cheap teeps or fish bouncing around the water. Those don't really do anything, they're just for decoration. Oh, and when you're in the water, your boat is significantly easier to control, but it's also slower. So you're not sliding around, but you go at a much slower pace too. Now, vanilla lake tricks. So these have water pools in the center, like on donut planes. You get pushed out of the water. Your boat will jump up out of the water every now and then. The snow here does slow you down, but not completely, so you can still move across it at a decent pace. Not through the bushes here, though. These glass blocks here represent like ice blocks. If you bump into them with your boat, they'll break shortly after, like the ghost tracks. They also will be they will regenerate when the track resets. So at the next race. Same thing with these. These are also breakable. The last theme is Rainbow Road. There is only one style in this. So this is probably the most difficult track. It's full of sharp turns, and it has thin walkways everywhere. This has a few jumps in it. It has the thwomps from the composer's castle. And also, if you fall off, like in the Ghost Valleys, you'll be put back onto the track, but you will overall lose progress. See, definitely can get thin here. Yep. Alright, now that I've completed a few races, I've run over quite a few coins, so I can use this cosmetic shop here. If you look at the button, or rather just around it, it will tell you the price of the heads. If you want to buy it, just simply hit the button. This is just for looks. You can wear this through your races. But one thing to know is if you use if you go back to spawn, or if you go into a multiplayer map and die, you will lose your head. So there is an ender chest here for you to store your heads in when you don't want to use them, and they will not be replaced if you once they're lost. After you buy something, it'll subtract the coins from your account, which, once I run out of coins, it will tell you your current balance, which I have 18 now. So I ran over 18 pressure plates while making this video. I'll go ahead and add a few more. So now I have 118. So I can buy the more expensive items, like this one, which was 75. And I don't have enough for that, so now it's 43. Another detail is the walls in this room. They also have a night theme. So at night it changes into a nice grass. Alright, so next up is battle mode. This is completely different from the circuits. This is a player versus player match. So you cannot play this on your own, unfortunately. You can enter the tracks, but not do anything. To enter match, just come over here and pick your track, hit the button. You'll be put into this room here, where you can choose whichever boat you want, and you will be teleported down to the track. This button will take you back to the hub. So all you have to do is get into the track, and you're in the game. Your scoreboard is on the right there, which will keep track of how many people in this track, or how many people. It'll keep track of how many people in the current arena you've killed. So I will go ahead and bring my other account into here too. So he is in here too now. Once you're on the track, you'll be teleported down to the arena at a random point. There's 12 different locations in the track you can enter at, and they'll just be given to you randomly. One thing you might notice offhand is as soon as you enter the arena, you only have 3 hearts here to your name. That's from this chest plate here, which you cannot take off. You also have the banner stuck on your head. That that shows what your current life is. All players will have that. So he has 3 balloons still, so he has 3. That means he can take 3 hits. So when you go over the pressure plate, you'll be given a crossbow with a firework. You can shoot it once, and it breaks. So that will be your weapon on the track. Alright, I've collected a few more fireworks here. So one thing to note is that when you're in the boat, you can only look in 180 degrees to your left and right. Well, slightly past 180. But either way, you cannot look behind you. So you have to keep track of at all times of what direction your boat is actually facing, which is kind of hard to do, but you can get the hang of it eventually. He has 3 hearts. If I shoot him, he's now got 2 balloons left. That means he's down to 2 hearts. And I hit myself too, so I am also down to 2 hearts. So, down to 1. Again, I hit myself, I should probably back up. And the third one, he's out. And I now have 1 more point on the scoreboard here. Your score will only increase from killing other players. If you shoot yourself, it does not count. And also, like in the racetracks, at any point, if you get out of your boat, hitting shift, you'll just be killed. And it does not count towards your score at all, but you will be kicked out immediately. And also, you will drop your weapons on the ground. And also any player heads if you brought them into the game, so don't do that. There's literally no way to get them out of the track alive. While there isn't any advantage to picking one boat over the other, it does change the color of the fireworks you receive. So I'm in the brown boat, which represents Bowser, so that is my color theme. And then if I have my other account, Fire One, he's in the birch boat, so he has that color. So to end the game, you don't really have to do anything. I would not suggest using /spawn to get out of here though, because that could cause some issues with this. So please just come up here and use the pressure plates. When every player is sitting up here, that will cause the boats to disappear. So if I bring him up here, the boats are gone. And the scoreboard is now gone. So that will happen if every player leaves the arena, or if every player dies. And the last thing to mention is just the spectator platforms. That's those wall buttons here at the hub. So if you look next to the button, it will tell you which course you're going to go to, which will align to those. And then the battle courses are on the right here. So if you want to spectate battle course 3, that would be right here. Just hit that. You're up on this platform here, and you can just fully watch, and you'll be unaffected by everything going on in the arena. And that's about all there is to cover.